Black people have a complicated relationship with Christianity. As we enter February, we'll get to recount the many stories of Black history. We'll read about abolitionists like Harriet Tubman, who bravely rescued brothers and sisters from slavery. We'll learn about the early Black churches that transformed into places of education and renewed dignity. We'll learn about the civil rights movement led by church mothers and fathers. We'll learn of the organizing that happened in pews to fight against racism, injustice, and violence. We'll learn about the culture and music that was born from choir stands, music, and hymns that still echo today. And yet, many today think that Jesus is getting in the way of Black people's true liberation. With the rise of fascism, Christian nationalism, and a sharp turning towards white supremacy, one can wonder if people of color should still align with the church that seems to want to align itself with forces that wish to harm them. In this series, we'll sit in that tension, but we'll also tell the truth. We will untangle Christ from colonization and reclaim him as the true liberator that he has and always will be. Okay, here we are. Okay, could you please introduce yourself to the theology audience, please?
Yes. Hi. So my name is Ola Gerald. I am an educator and a doctoral student, and my my research focuses on and my work focuses on civic education and how we can teach students to be civically engaged and civically minded, and how social action can lead to real change. And a lot of my research is focused a lot on border communities. So students, in Southern Texas, and just really how they're navigating civic spaces and the climate we live in.
So you and we met at the Made for PAX Fellowship. Well, we kind of like scoped each other out beforehand.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like we saw like Lock Girly. We're
Yes.
we're connected. And we met in September, and I feel like you and I immediately like, I don't know, it was just like, I see you, you see me.
Yes. It was like immediate, like, we're
Yes,
here, we're here.
we're here, we're here.
Like, it was
And I feel
amazing.
like you and I share like so much of the same convictions when it comes to justice, but also fidelity to the text
Mhm.
and balancing that righteousness and justice. And we both are educators, and there's just, I don't know, educators, we just get each other. Like
Yes.
when you hear somebody else as a teacher, it's like, friend.
Right, right. It's like somebody who has had those like same, really, really amazing experiences
Mm,
and the really, really hard ones. Like
yes, yes.
just that kind of like unspoken like understanding of like you get it.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. We're going to get into it, but I just want to kind of start off by just, if you're comfortable, whatever you're comfortable to share, just, who is Jesus to you? I mean, you have a vast broad of just working plain girl, and she's a writer too, y'all. She forgot to put that in there.
Oh my
She's a
gosh.
writer too. I gotta
Okay.
keep correcting my friends. Like, wait a minute now, put some respect on your own name.
Okay. Okay.
And
That's
she's a writer too. But I mean, underneath it all your work is fueled by a love for Christ. So could you just kind of say, who is Jesus to Ola?
yeah. I mean, that's such a big question, but such an amazing one. Like Jesus really is everything. Like he really is. I'm grateful to have grown up um in faith, in the sense of like, even before my parents were like fully committed, they were like, look, our kids are gonna grow up knowing the Lord. You
Mm,
we were those Veggie Tales kids. We were in Christian schools, we were listening to Fred Hammond on the weekends. And so I've always been surrounded by the things of the Lord, and so grateful for that. And I remember distinctly, going to Christian school and learning about Jesus, and always just like just hearing him like I love him, you know.
mhm.
But I remember distinctly the night that like I fully accepted Christ. It was so funny. Everybody has these like big experiences, or like I came down at church, or I was an adult, and I remember being 6 years old in my bedroom, like, and was just like, Jesus, I want you to come into my heart.
Mm.
And then after that, of course, you go and do all the formalities, because like I grew up at like a real Black church. And you like go
Come
do
down to the front.
you come down to the front, they hold up the mic. What do you want to say? Like all
Mm,
this stuff. But since then, it has been just a journey, like such a walk. When people say walk, like for real, like desert highs,
Mhm.
lows kind of thing. I have struggled in the past with like anxiety, really bad anxiety, because of coming from a really legalistic background. And
Mhm.
so that level of like spiritual, like, am I doing this right? Am I like, and so that created this distance between me and Jesus of like, he's always looking to, punish
Mhm.
me and like it's never enough. And, grappling with that as I got older. And then but always still coming back to, knowing the word and knowing who he was and grateful for Christian schools that kind of kept that always in front of me.
Mhm.
But having to untangle my relationship with him from the legalism and anxiety. And so, as I've been an adult, it really has been like a walk of like figuring out who he is separate from all of that. Like, and
Mhm.
not in a way that's like, no offense to people who have to deconstruct for various reasons, and come back. And, I have so much heart for that, but not in a deconstructing way, but in a way of like, how do I see him more clearly?
Mhm.
Like, how do I look in the word and see him for who he is? And that's not always like pretty. It's not always like, oh, this makes me feel good. But
Mhm.
sometimes it makes me feel so much better too.
Mhm.
Like learning that like he loves me, like he really does. And it's not like, this sense of like I always have to look over my shoulder. Like always have to like he's always there, but it's in a sense of like because he wants to be. He wants to
Mhm.
be in relationship with me, and sin separates me from that relationship. And so, you know, um, that's where it is now. Like just learning to walk with him, not just, I think the thing that I've been like saying over and over to myself and to people I talk to is like learning to be a daughter before I'm a servant,
Mhm.
you
That's
know?
good.
Yeah. So like that's what I'm grappling with in this season. Is like, okay, is this a daughter move or is this a servant move? Like,
Mhm.
really taking that to prayer all the time. So yeah, that's Jesus.
Yes, Jesus loves Ola, for the Bible tells her
Yes,
so.
like sometimes, like I
Yeah.
mean, really, when you think about that song, it's like you're singing it at 4 years old. There's so much theology packed into that song that
Yes.
like then
Yes.
gets layered over top of
Hmm.
like, and it's like if we all came back to that, like
Yes.
we'd probably be a lot better off.
Yes. I actually just finished a book, I want to say 2 days ago. It's by Dane Ortland. It's called Deeper, and it's
Okay.
about spiritual formation. He has like two chapters just about the love of God. And he was like, I know you're coming to this book like trying to figure out like how can I get closer to God? He's like, it doesn't matter what you do until
Mm.
you understand how much God loves you.
Yes.
And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Like, but that's so true. Like us trying, like that is in itself is legalism. Legalism is trying to do things for a person who you think does not love you, that is trying to condemn you.
Yeah.
So that's so good. I'm so glad you shared that. Thank you for that. I want to talk about your civic education.
Okay.
And I taught social studies for a little bit, but it was to fifth graders. I wonder, just kind of as we're in this political moment, and the larger just moment that we're in history where people don't have faith really in institutions, but we still need our institutions for the most part to kind of survive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and a lot of people not even really understanding the power they hold when it comes to voting and understanding what's going on in the world around them, or, being involved with their communities. Like, what do you see as you're educating that are really blind spots for people when it comes to knowing their rights, knowing their involvement
Yeah.
in civics?
Yeah. I think that's an amazing question because I think, especially as I'm seeing with young people,
Mm,
there's so like there's a lack of knowledge in how our government should work.
mm,
And I think it's because we're being inundated constantly with this fire hose of like it not working the way way it should.
mm,
Like one branch having all this outsized power, because it's really breaking the law, but
mm,
like doing all these things that it shouldn't do, that it's left so many people like jaded.
mm,
Mm. And so I think the thing that like I've constantly been having to like remind students, because I work at a court. And so it's separate from, the executive branch and the presidency and different from, Capitol Hill. And so as I'm working with students and working with like my team, the thing that we constantly are coming back to tell people is that like the courts are not subject to what these other groups say. And so and the courts are quieter. They're not usually, they seem to move a little slower. People are kind of like, well, they're not doing anything. But in reality, like you see almost every day on the news, judge blocks this, judge says you can't do that. And so our institutions aren't failing in the way that I think is like keeps coming back to people. They're like, well, look at what the presidency is doing. Look at what Congress is doing. And I'm like, we still have a branch that is like fighting the good fight and that like
Mm.
and I think that's why it's so important because it's like the 250th anniversary of the country, 250th birthday, and I know we have so many tensions and so many like conflicts about like the founding of the nation, like that are valid and that I also have. But like sometimes it can be helpful to remember and be grateful for the wisdom that God gave, these very flawed men to separate the power in the way they did,
Yeah, yeah.
because it could be, and as bad as it is, it could be so much worse. It could
Mhm.
be like, it literally could be like one person is judge, jury, and executioner in the way that like if you had a king, it's like we have somebody trying to behave as one, but at the end of the day, you have systems in place and they haven't failed yet. So
Yeah.
I keep trying to remind students and remind myself and remind my friends like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
courts are still here.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like I mean you work with young people so you'll get this reference, but like I constantly see on TikTok it's like chat, we're cooked. Like we're done.
Yes.
And I mean like it's said in like a joking way, but I mean it really you can fall into despair if
Mhm.
you're not careful and you can be really pessimistic about everything. And what you just talked about is I feel like aligned with that when you say people are jaded with the system. Like if someone's listening today and it's like, I feel that way. I feel like every day I wake up, it's a new headline and this man is doing something crazy again.
Yeah,
How would you like encourage that person to be like, hey, like all hope is not lost?
right. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like one, I'll say like me too. Like wake up and look at the news, you see it all, and it's really easy to get discouraged. And one, I would say like unplug as much as you can. Because
Mm,
that's the thing that I've had to like do is that like, okay, I will be informed in a way that like allows me to get information without like acceleration and exhaustion.
mm,
Um, and then also like again, look up what the courts are doing. Look up where your local, people are doing. The people that like you can call, you can
mhm,
like knock on their door, you know, figure out if you like even if you can go observe a trial or things that are open to the public,
mhm,
like go at the local level, at the state level and see the system at work to kind
mhm,
of restore your hope a little bit because it all feels really big and really bad. But when you boil down to the local level, a lot of things are really still working. A lot
mhm,
of things are really still happening that are good. And like the more that we find ways to get involved locally, the
mhm.
more that will, instead of like trickle down, the more that will start to like empower us to go up the chain.
Yeah, yeah, that's so good. That's so good. I feel like I have a good friend. Her name is Charlene, and she works in local government as well. And she used to tell me like Maya, like so many like the hearings and like all of the different things, like we maybe have one or two people come to it, and it's like really sad because it's like, but then when something wrong happens, then everybody at the town,
Yeah,
everybody's at the town hall.
everybody's there.
Yeah, and I mean, rightfully so when something don't work, but I mean, it kind of is like, man, we can always show up that way and be
Yeah.
like, hey, like we put you here, now we about to hold you accountable. So I encourage that. I mean, is there a place people can go to that? Is that, do they go to their local government? Where should they go to find that information?
Yeah, honestly, I feel like the easiest thing is like Googling your local government and being like, okay, what, hearings are happening near me? Like what issues are on the next ballot that we're voting for? Because, I can be guilty too of like not really paying attention to like what is coming up to vote on because
Mm.
you get your day to day and you're like, okay,
And it's low key designed so that nobody really like knows what's going on. Like,
Exactly. And it can't just be it can't just be our elders because our elders, they know. They
yes.
they stay locked in and clocked in. Like they know.
They sure do.
And it can't just be them because eventually we're gonna be the elders and
We the new adults.
God help us. And so if like when they pass and when they move on, like we're not in that habit.
Mm,
They're the poll workers and they're they're all these people. And so,
mm,
it's really just like getting involved now when
yeah.
you have the like energy and capacity and all these things to learn from them. And so they can hand off the torch.
That is so, girl. Now you got me. I'm like, shoot, I could be a poll worker. Let
Yeah,
me.
you
And
could.
this is a PSA. Go ahead and check that voter registration. It's February. Make sure you got your stuff in order, please.
Yes,
If
please
you
check.
moved, change the address, please. In Jesus' name, we need everybody on deck. We need everybody.
Don't give anybody any reason to purge your name from any role.
Hello, hello. If you
And
got any outstanding fines, then don't do.
don't
Drive
go take
safely.
your
Don't
stuff
do
to the
nothing.
library.
Hello. Go ahead and get your stuff together, please. We need everybody clocked in November, please. I want to talk a little bit about your doctoral experience because I feel like your thesis is so interesting because we talked a little bit about it on the retreat, but we were just kind of talking about how our community, specifically Black and Brown communities, how a lot of times I feel like we're pitted against each other. I know that is a result of white supremacy and just the very much like crabs in a barrel, like only one minority.
Right.
Who is winning the oppression Olympics? Like who's the most?
Right.
And it keeps us from one, loving our neighbor, which is sinful, and two, it keeps us like very like cyclical thinking instead of being like, hey, this is the issue that both of us are fighting. So
Right.
could you just maybe talk a little bit more about what you're studying, what you're hoping to really like bring light to? And yeah, just tell us because I'm so interested. Just talk.
Yeah. So my focus, of course, having been a social studies teacher, one of the kind of assignments I had, like kind of out of nowhere, was for our multilingual students. And
Mm,
so they kind of like approached me and were like, hey, we think you'd be a good fit for this. Mind you, the only Spanish I had was like high school level Spanish, because most of our students are Spanish speakers. I didn't have any training, but they're like, it'll be better than what they currently have.
mm,
Host of other reasons. And so I jumped in and really just realized like one, these students are beautiful. These students are like amazing. Like they're so resilient. They're so, joyful. And of course they're kids, but there was just such a level of like excitement for learning. But then as I was navigating it, not having any of that experience, I just knew social studies. And then I was looking, I'm like, there are not like materials and resources that connect their lived experience as having
mm,
like come over here from a different country to what America is and its ideals and its goals, and so that was kind of like the first kind of like inkling. I left the classroom, started like did a couple of different things and ended up in civic education. And that's kind of where the dots started to connect
mm,
of like, okay, there's a lack of curriculum here. There's a lack of focus on these students. Like, what does it look like to kind of create an environment where these students, immigrant students, or students like, from the Latino community are able to like see themselves in the curriculum
mm,
and connect their identity to what people say America is and America should be. Because there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of like, especially in the conversation around immigration and immigration from south of the border, it's coming from such a deficit mindset. It's coming from like, America's all great and amazing, and they're coming over here and messing everything up. When in reality, one, that's not the case. And then it's not that simple. It's not just like a whole bunch of people packing up for no, because they have nothing better to do with like, coming to hang out and coming to like resting on like going to the border specifically. That is a God thing. Went to a conference on civic education with the courts, and
Mm-hmm.
went to a session. Just we had been talking about like, okay, you go here, you go here, you go here. I ended up in this session talking about like different fellowship programs for students, and a judge came up and started talking. She was like, I'm on the border in Laredo, Texas. I've started this civic education program for students, and the whole community is Mexican American.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, this is the work that needs to be done. I went up and I was like, hi, you don't know me at all. I'm a doctoral student, but like I just immediately resonated with, your work. And she looked at me and she was like, this is God. And I was like, okay. And she like hugged me and I hugged her. And like I went down there and spent a week with her.
Mm-hmm.
Like she invited me into her home. Like I met her kids, felt studied like the fellowship and how it worked, and like invited kids to just be part of the research.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we're going to be focusing on is looking at like what does civic education mean in a border community? Like in a place where people are like, they always want to say like, oh, the border, it's so dangerous and the wall and you need all these things. But being down there just for a week, it's Mexico and it's America. Like it is, these kids are speaking Spanish everywhere they go. Like you go to restaurants and the default is to speak Spanish, but you also see on the 4th of July, you see all this American patriotism. They celebrate
Mm-hmm.
George Washington's birthday like every year.
Yeah.
And they like, but they're so proudly Mexican and so proudly American that I was like,
Mm-hmm.
this is a place to like see like to challenge what that narrative is. And so I'm going to be working with those kids. Like now, mind you, they're kids and it's like a youth action project. And so I haven't heard from some of them in like forever. And so we're regrouping, but that's the heart behind it. And so that's kind of what I want to like focus on because I want them to be able to tell their story. It's not about me being like, look what I did. Look at my research. It's about like handing them the microphone and saying like, let the country see, let people in the academy see what life is actually like for you here.
Mm-hmm.
Because they love it and they enjoy it. And it's not the terror that like, people want to make it seem on the news.
Yeah, that's so good. If you're one of Ola students, baby, get on your Zoom and do
Like
what you need to
literal
do.
Zoom.
I'm hearing you kind of say a little bit when you talked about just kind of the duality of your students embracing their Mexican culture, but also embracing some precepts of American culture. I feel like for some people that's so confusing because a lot of people ascribe to just an ideology of assimilation. So it's like either you're Mexican or you're American. You're black, and if you say you're a black American or if you're proud to be black, you hate America.
Yeah,
Like, and I even see that in the church. It's like you can't be a black Christian. It's like I believe in Jesus, but I'm not gonna sit here and act like
right.
sin has not impacted the way that I relate to God and his church. I have to deal with that. That doesn't mean I reject Christ, but I do reject the people that trying to come in his name and saying that hello. I just wonder kind of what you think about kind of just some of the ways that people have a fear around that because I feel like what you just said is so poignant. Like a lot of people demonize the folks and the happenings at the border because it doesn't look quote unquote American or it doesn't fit their assimilated worldview. And like just what do you think about that? Because I'm like, y'all, that's even when we're talking about the Bad Bunny show, which I'm finna be tuned in for.
I don't
I'm
even watch the Super Bowl and
period.
I'm right there.
And I've been practicing my Spanish too, so I can see.
As you
But
should.
yes, but I'm like, y'all, Puerto Rico is they're American citizens. But again,
No
like,
choice of their own, by the way.
hello. I've been learning so much about that the last few weeks because I like let me tap in on the research. But I wonder what you think about that and just kind of maybe how people who ascribe to an assimilated worldview, like they're allowing fear to control their view of their neighbor.
Honestly, that's it. It's really one of the saddest things to me. Like, and not saying that like all groups don't do it to some extent. Because I've
Mhm.
seen in like, black spaces where, we'll be like, well, can't be black and Hispanic. You
Mhm.
can't be, if you're this kind of Christian, if you're this kind of black, you can't be Catholic. Or,
Mhm.
there's all kinds of ways of like trying to like keep us in boxes.
Mhm.
It's like just so unfortunate because truly Jesus came to like break all of those distinctions. I mean,
Yes.
no Jew, no Greek, no slave, no free. Like he broke a lot of those boxes, not to give like room for lawlessness, but to show that like at the end of the day, there is so much creativity and color and like,
Mm.
space in who God made us to be. And so it is sad and frustrating when people try to say like you can't be, American and Mexican. You can't
Mm.
be, black and proud to be an American because in a lot of ways I'm grateful for the country that I live in because there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of things that like as a result of living here that I do have.
Mhm.
And one of those privileges is the privilege to critique it. It's the
Yes.
privilege to be like, you're broken. You need to fix it,
Yes.
Because in other countries, I would know it was broken and I couldn't say anything,
Mm.
and we pray for those places. And so it's just I pray for people's eyes to open and for them to get free. Because
Mm.
I feel like it's a matter of like you said, internal fear,
Mm.
like internal, like, well, they don't feel like they can be more than one thing. And so they see somebody else and they're like, well, you don't fit in my box, so I don't like you.
Mm.
Or you are trying to do too much, so I don't like you. So really just like praying for freedom for those people so that they let other people be free
Yeah.
within the freedom that Christ gives us.
Yeah, that's so good. I mean, again, it goes back to a spiritual issue at the end of the day. I have to remind myself of that so much. I'd be like, I'm dealing with a principality right now. Let me.
Right, right. Not in the way too of like
Yeah.
bypassing either, because there are people
Mm.
who are like, racism is just a sin issue. I'm like, but that impacts me in real life. It's real
Yes.
systems, it's real harm. Like it is a sin issue
Yes.
and
Well, also, when people say that, I'd be like, all right, let me follow your logic. So you said racism is a sin issue. Okay, who's doing the sinning? People. Who make the system? People. So inherently, the system itself is sinful.
yeah,
Like,
right. Like
I'm like, people be so close with that. I'd be like, oh, please, like, let's keep going. Like,
right. And
let's keep going.
what also confuses me about that logic too is that like in what world as Christians do we see a sin issue and we're like, like, oh no, it's a sin issue.
Nah, because
Like,
y'all be ready to crash out about everything else. Come to the front of the class.
every other sin issue,
Hmm.
we are writing letters, we are sending emails, we are boycotting
Yeah.
halftime shows.
See,
But all of a sudden, this one particular sin issue, it's like,
we just gotta let God do his work. He actually empowered us to do the work.
absolutely,
He
absolutely.
said, like, yes, every power that's been given unto me, like, I'm giving it to you
Yeah.
to crush
We'll do what
serpent.
I
Like,
do
come
and you
on.
some.
Hello. That's so good. Yeah, we could stay right there for a minute. I'm cool with that. Kind of like when we're kind of shifting towards church spaces, I feel like in the same way that we are fearing our neighbor because of assimilation mindsets in civics, it's the same in church spaces. So I just wonder what you think about that and maybe how we could stop being so rigid about our our gatherings if somebody a little different from us.
Yes. Like, and I'll speak about it from two angles. So I grew up in Prince George's County, if anybody like listening is aware of it. Like, For the longest time, it was like one of the largest predominantly Black counties, like, and wealthiest predominantly Black counties in the country.
Mm.
And so the church I went to, First Baptist Church of Glenarm, I'll say the name, people know what it is. Like black, just in historically black. And so like I'm grateful because it didn't divorce my faith from my blackness, which is nice. Like I grew up in spaces where it was okay to be black and to be, a Christian, but it came with its own set of like, this is how you worship as a black Christian.
Mm.
So I'm not the most like demonstrative person naturally. And it took me a lot of time to get like comfortable even lifting my hands in worship. But from the pulpit, you would hear, well, if you don't like this, if you don't like the shouting, and if you're uncomfortable with that, then you don't want to go to heaven. And I was like,
But I do.
I was like, but I do.
Mhm.
And like would hear, people say like, make jokes or things about like say things about white people and like not in a overtly like prejudiced way, but in a way that was like like an inside black joke. And and then as somebody who went to pretty diverse Christian schools and like had friends who were of all different races, I was like, I can't bring my friend to visit. They're gonna
Mm.
feel so uncomfortable. They're gonna feel
Mm.
like targeted or left out or like all these kinds of things. And so on that side, like from the black aspect of it, I was like, I know what it's like to be the majority and to be like, the the dominant group here, but still not feeling like I quite fit because personality wise, I didn't assimilate or conform to what might have been considered normal there.
Mm.
I went to college, University of Alabama, and it was like a complete 180 from my experience here at home. Um, uh, and like the first year I got there, 2013, the sororities like officially integrated, for the first time. Like it was crazy. Because of course, I'm sure they had been like unofficially, like, no, well, officially on paper, I'm sure like it was open, but they hadn't let anybody in. A girl tried and was rejected, and there was a whole big thing because the information came out as to why. And so the university ends up sending out an email to all the young women of color about Rush starting again in like
Oh.
December if you'd be
Oh.
interested. And I was like, no,
No,
thank
no
you.
thanks.
Not after that.
Never
Because,
mind.
right. So that is the context of like being in Alabama. There was so much like history there. And then I was looking for a church and end up going to this really, really prominent church in Alabama called Church of the Highlands. And when I tell you they have like umpteen million campuses, one literally was on the campus for a while in at Alabama. So I started going there, and that was the first time that like my blackness mattered in a church
Mm.
setting. And it
Mm.
was so different. It was so different. And it was like, it wasn't necessarily automatically what they would have perceived as negative, but it was like all the black girls are always hanging out together because we were like not exactly included. Like I remember I went to that church for I'd say 2 years during college and would be there like multiple times a week. And every time I'd walk up and somebody would be like, "Hey, nice to meet you. Is it your first time here?" In the internship, like the like serving internship thing. And I'm like, "Is it my first time here?" No. Like, and so always feeling like, othered and like just
Mm.
like all the black girls hanging out together always because we were, safe with each other.
Mm.
And the added layer of like being a black woman
Mhm.
in Alabama of like you're in Tuscaloosa and like black men come to church and most of them are athletes. And they
Mm.
were like the football players and the basketball players. And whereas black women were kind of like invisible, black men were hyper visible.
Mm.
Like everyone wanted to be like, oh my gosh, like Derrick Henry came to church. Like, oh my gosh, like this other man came to church. And so they'd get front row seats and everybody would always like just love them and like be,
Mm.
just so invested in their walk or whatever it is, being personally discipled by the college pastor, whereas Black women were there constantly. And
Mm,
unless you were like in some way, shape, or form connected to a Black man that was already close, you
mm,
weren't you weren't getting any airtime. Like you
mm,
weren't getting any attention. And so my like last day there, it was a Wednesday night, it was a college service, and I'm pretty sure it was Freddie Gray in Baltimore. It was that night. It was like everything had happened. Baltimore was in chaos, and like I am from Maryland. Like I don't go to Baltimore often, but I'm from Maryland. And so everything is up here happening. And so I go with a friend. I'm wearing a Malcolm X t-shirt because that's how I was
y'all know
feeling.
what type of timing I'm on today. Don't play with
Right.
me.
Right. And then my other friend who was with me, she was wearing all black,
Mm,
all black and had her afro puffs. And so we were
mm,
very visibly like feeling what was going on. We went to this
mm.
college service and there was like no mention of anything at all. And so like you see the fact that they are like constantly like elevating these Black men because they're
Mm,
and because they're going to have proximity to power and money and all these things. But when a Black man's life is just, is taken, and when, you know, we needed those voices, like even if not to like say anything majorly political, but to be comforting. Like there are people, young women, young men in your congregation right now that are like dealing with something crazy, and you said nothing. And
mm.
that was my last night at that church because I was just like, if my Blackness like cannot coexist like with my faith here, then there's no reason for me to keep coming here,
Yeah.
and so ended up leaving. Should tell you the story though. This is another one of those things that I was like, hmm. So there was this basketball player who was like really close to the college pastor's family, like tight. And he gets like called up on the stage, and of course he's like one Black man in a sea of all these people. And he gets caught up on stage, and they're like, okay, if you can like dunk this ball on this stage, then whatever girl finds like a paper ticket, will find like the raffle ticket taped to the bottom of her seat, wins a date with you
In the church.
in the church. So there's a lot of layers, right? So it's like he's this Black man who literally he was African, like, by way of Europe. But this
Mm.
Black man with this white man standing next to him saying, the winner
Gets a
gets
date.
a date. And these white girls, you know, just for context, are like looking all like rapidly looking for the ticket, and one finds she's like, I won.
Mm,
And
mm.
that was the moment where I knew I wouldn't be there long because I was like, did this feel like an auction to anyone else?
Girl, that's immediate. I was like, oh, so we doing an auction block in the church. Oh,
Yes, I was like, so this didn't I okay. And I knew I would not be long for that church. And
yeah.
so that is
Girl, we thank the Lord Ola got right on up out of there.
like
Mm,
literally like yeah. And so I mean it was enough to like sustain me and keep me in like rhythms of like being in community.
mm-hmm.
Like I did find my people. Like I have friends that I'm still close with, all the Black women that I'm still close with, but like the environment itself in hindsight, I'm like, whoa.
I feel like you and I have similar journeys in that because I grew up in I always say we were Baptist in name, but we was really Pentecostal. I don't know why we was called a Baptist church. I was like, the only thing Baptist about us is that we have a baptismal pool at the front of the church. But everything else, Pentecost, I mean, we had praise flags, everything. We had a step team that would come every third Sunday, like very black,
Was
black,
third
black,
Sunday
black.
youth Sunday?
Ma'am,
Was third Sunday the youth Sunday?
third Sunday was Youth
Us
Sunday.
too. Us too.
They had a special choir for fifth Sundays, and my mom was in the choir too. So uh, that's how I grew up. So it was,
Yeah.
and it was always like, but it was also like we were overtly black. Like we had whole Black History Month service
Yep.
at
Mhm.
the church. Like, it was never like I felt weird in those spaces growing up.
Yes.
Because I mean, we'd be reading from Exodus and then Pastor would quote Dr. King. And then
Literally,
it was
literally.
never any like, it was never any separation. But then when I got to college, I was like, oh, what's going on here? And
Mhm.
I think you said Freddie Gray. I feel like mine was when Mike Brown was killed. And I remember um sitting in the church, and that's when we really had started. I don't know if it was then, but maybe a little bit after, when we really started saying Black Lives Matter. And the pastor got out there and was like, I know we're hearing a lot of this, but I just want to remind you all lives matter to God. I was like, okay. But again, that's again the assimilation thing. Like we're saying right now that Black people are being killed and have been being killed at disproportionate rates in this country since its inception.
And
We're
before,
telling you that those people are made in the image of God and deserve dignity and life.
right,
And your response is all lives matter. Of course they do. We're not
right.
stupid, but it's that's when I was like, but like you said, I mean, I still have community with some of the people down there, but when the Lord said, "All right, it's time to go." It was
Right,
time to go.
right.
But again, it goes, but I still feel like there was still no love and neighbor in that either. Like you're trying to say all lives matter. Okay, if they do, then
If they do,
if they do, and you're not just being like difficult on purpose and
right,
dense on purpose,
yeah,
then this situation of the many other situations that we're witnessing should not be a surprise. And I went to school in Valdosta. I don't know if you know where that is. Valdosta
I
is like
like
South
know
Georgia.
a little. Yeah,
Yes. Valdosta, it's similar to Alabama in that, like, one, Valdosta has a very rough history of lynching that I did not know until I got there. And I was like, girl, it's some horror stories out of Lowndes County. And most of the town itself is still very segregated.
yeah,
Just because of like just historically, like you
right.
literally cross, it's really the university. Like you go south of the university and there's more Black communities, go north,
Yes,
it's more white people.
and that's
Um,
Tuscaloosa.
and the people that live there do not want you to bring that up. Like they're just like, everything's fine.
Mm.
This is how we live. It's like something's wrong here. Like I don't,
Right, right, right.
it's not okay. But me, all my Metro Atlanta self, I'm like, what's going on, guys? This is not good.
Like, and it was the same way going to Alabama. Like, I mean, I love the campus and I love my time there, but like, it was surreal walking
Mm,
around, like literally where George Wallace stood in the schoolhouse door.
mm,
Like you can see it. You see it happening. Like there's like you see the plaque to it, and it's just kind of like the dichotomy of like you're walking around in this space, and it's like, okay, I am proud of the fact that I'm able to be here when they couldn't.
mm.
Also, still buildings named after eugenicists and slaveholders, and this was a military school that provided soldiers to the Confederacy, and so
Yeah.
there's just that tension. Uh,
Hmm.
and then you go to church and it's like happy sunshine and all day. And you're like, you just tried to auction this man off
Hello.
like on the stage. So yeah,
Yeah. And the frustrating thing about it is like at some point, my white brothers and sisters, you're gonna have to stop acting like this isn't a issue. Like we're getting to a point where you ignoring it is enabling it. Like
yeah,
stop. Like at some point, it's not a hot take to say like, hey, let's not be racist. Like it's not a hot take. You're not being political by saying like this is a wrong thing, but I feel like everybody want to stand up for Christ until it's time to stand up towards like the demeaning of the people made in his image. Everybody want to be a crusader until it's time to love your neighbor. Like that's I would say the most easiest task to do.
I think so, just because it's like the wrong things at this point are so blatantly wrong.
Yeah,
Like it should be easy. I mean,
it should.
it should be the easy thing to be like, hey, we shouldn't be snatching children off the streets.
It's
Didn't
wrong to separate families.
like it. I
Like,
mean, the sad part though is that like this is so like, and I think this thing that makes me like sad as a history teacher is that like people don't know enough to know that this is normal. Like people are like,
yeah.
this is not normal. This is unprecedented. I'm like, actually, Black communities can tell you we don't know all of our families simply because
Mm,
children were sold away from their mothers, fathers were sold away from their families. Like families have been being separated for centuries now.
yes.
And like a lot of us are saying something as Black people because we know how bad it hurts. It's not from a place of like, this America has never been like this. Actually, we're like, it has, and it finally needs to stop,
Yeah, yeah.
you know? And
I've been seeing it quoted like white supremacy, this does not just hurt white people. A lot of people just thought it hurted black people. It's
yeah,
hurting all of us because at its core, white supremacy is a sin.
yeah,
And sin doesn't know how to do anything but destroy.
right.
Even if it coddles you with a lie at first that you're better than somebody else, it ultimately is bent on the destruction of all humanity. It
Yes,
just started with some people groups first.
right.
So what you just said is so profound because I'm just like, y'all, like that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, like principalities, spiritual
Yeah,
wickedness in high places, like, and I feel like a lot of times people see it as like, oh, it's just piles. Like, no, like all of this has a spiritual root. And unfortunately, this is like a high place that America has had for a long time. And black people, like when people are talking about kids being like we have stories. Emmett Till is one of those big stories of like a child being snatched.
yeah,
Like
yes,
we have, and growing up in the black church, we heard those stories as kids. We
right,
heard story like we heard about Ruby Bridges and saw pictures of her when we were her age.
right.
And
And
we've never been able to divorce ourselves from the idea that like, oh, like this happened where we live.
yeah.
Now we don't have to face that, but it's never like not been in a black child's psyche to know that like, hey, like they used to treat people that look like us like this.
Mhm. And I think I really appreciate you talking about the fact that like this is a principality. This is a high place that America is like literally built on. Like
Mm-hmm.
there is like some sort of like spiritual covenant, spiritual agreement that this country because of the way it was founded and
Yeah.
because of the land that was stolen from indigenous people, that like our country was started on genocide and separation of families. Because it's like even enslavement is like the one that always comes to mind. But I'm like, our indigenous brothers and sisters have been dealing with the exact same story for like centuries now. Like when
Mm-hmm.
Columbus first showed up, catastrophic,
Yes.
before we were ever even brought over. And so this country's like story is so deeply entwined with like greed and harm and all
Mm-hmm.
of these things. And it's like the sad part is like the church is also like parallel
Mm-hmm.
dealing with so much of it. Like I was reading a book and it was talking about like how the Catholic Church, like at the time, which was, the only church more or less, essentially was like, yeah, take over. If they're heathens, you can take their land. And so the church has been complicit in this
Yeah.
from the beginning. And we have to accept that and repent of it before, we can go and point fingers at the world. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, what you just said that last part. I mean, we literally like ruin our witness, specifically with other black people. Like, you don't
yeah,
know how hard it is for me to like share the gospel with other black people. Be like, I'm not down with it. Especially in this moment where, our government is trying to like bastardize scripture to justify a lot. We could go down that rabbit hole, but it's just like It's very hard. And like you said with the principality, I'm like, God, he's holding back wrath. Like he's like, okay, keep playing
Right.
with me, because somebody gonna have to answer for this. If it's not now, there is going to be like a cosmic, like, what did you say that I said? Like there is
Right.
going to be payment, and it thankfully we have the blood of Christ, and it's available, and it never runs dry. It has the same power,
Right.
but it you have to repent.
Right. And a government can't accept Jesus.
Hello, individual salvation. Go ahead and make that choice.
Right.
But I think also what is troubling to me is that a lot of people think they are following God when they're following these Christian nationalists, because the language sounds good, right? Like, we're
Yeah.
gonna restore us back to a Christian nation. We were never a Christian nation.
No.
We were never that. Some of the people that founded this country may have claimed Christian ideals, but we could have a conversation of whether they were acting as men of God when they,
Well,
owned other people.
all other people.
I don't know if that was really Christ-like or not. So we could have a conversation about that. But like, I think part of it, when it goes back to the education piece that we were talking about at the beginning of the episode, like a lot of people really don't know the history of this nation, and therefore they're able to fall for a ton of lies because they think they're being, what's the word, patriotic or even like holy by defending this nation. And it's like, you ain't got to defend nothing but the kingdom of God, baby.
Yeah.
Let this nation do what it's supposed to do. You belong to God. You don't belong to a party. You don't belong to a nation. That is only an identifier on this side of heaven. You have a higher calling, but I feel like so many people feel like if they don't defend this nation, somehow they let Christ down. And I'm like, release, be the
Right.
Pentecostal coming out. Let her go.
Really though, be free, be released from
Yeah.
it. The way you see people online, especially like twisting themselves
Mm,
in knots, trying to defend the indefensible from this country simply because, well, it's America, so it must be good. No,
mm,
no, and it truly it gets to a point where I'm like, I don't understand it. Like I literally just cannot comprehend the ability to say you are a follower of Christ and look at what you see happening and
mm.
be like, yes, that's okay. Like
Yeah.
it blows my mind. I mean, but again, Dr. King said it, talking about like, the white clergy in
Mm,
Alabama during the civil rights movement, how they were like, you should, slow down, wait for the
mm,
change to happen. And he's like, hello, your brothers and sisters are being jailed and killed and abused, and
mm.
you're telling us to wait?
We can't wait no more. We can't do it. And I feel like I think you're quoting why we can't wait, but it's just like to think that he was having that same tension in the 60s and now we in 2026. I'm like, yeah, Lord, whenever you ready,
Ever,
put
whatever.
them trumpets on and let's go, Lord. But it's I think I can't remember if it was Dr. King, but I know that um I feel like being a Christian in this time, I feel like if you're not lamenting some type of injustice, like you have to really consider if you're connected to the heart of God, because it's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like he is grieved. And it's hard because, and I think you and I have talked about this before, of like we can have the justice mindset, but then it's like sometimes you have to just walk this narrow road and you have to
yep.
really test the spirits, because you can hear something that is like, yes, that's good. And then they keep talking and you like, whoa, hold up, wait a minute now. Wait a second. Like, for example, like the persecution of our brothers and sisters that are in Nigeria and China. Like, absolutely. Like, totally. We're grieving that. We're praying for our brothers and sisters' safety, that they can preach and meet together in freedom, right? But then the same people that advocate for that then want to say that they don't want interracial marriage. And then I'd be like, wait a minute. I was with you. I
You have
was
to
with you
first
till you
half.
said some crazy stuff like that. So I was talking to my husband about it. It's literally like how Christ describes it. It's a narrow road
Narrow road.
because on either space, it's like, okay, I can agree with some conservative talking points. And then other times I hear some progressive talking points, but I'm like,
Yeah,
neither of these platforms.
correct.
Now, I'm not trying to do the like both sides are bad because right
Right.
now one side is very much worse.
Yes. Yes.
It's very much tearing things up
Yeah.
right now. So I'm not trying to do that straw man argument, but there's very much like a narrow road that like Christians have to like take. Christians have to take in this moment because I feel like if you go either on one side, like either side is disobeying Christ.
Yeah.
And there's like a narrow road, but it's literally sometimes it's like it's a tightrope sometimes. Almost it feels like it's like, okay, Lord. But I
No.
see why people just go all in on either side because it's you don't have to think. People tell you what to think, and you don't really have to wrestle with God and be like, "Well, God, why? Well, Lord, I'm angry at this, but also this." Like it doesn't take much wrestling to just fall in line with whatever type of thinking somebody already has.
Yeah. And I think truly it comes down on both sides, where it gets to the point of like you are just making scripture say what you want to say and making God say what you want him to say. Because I mean,
Yeah.
even like there are points in like on the progressive side where it's like, okay, you twisted scripture to the point where God tolerates
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
where he deliberately in so many instances in the Bible says like, hey, this is sin.
Yeah.
I love you, but I don't want you to sin.
Yes.
There are consequences for that sin. And I love, people always like Jesus would have, done this and Jesus would have done that. And it's absolutely true. Jesus
Yes.
looked for justice and Jesus like uplifted women and Jesus was there for children. But every time Jesus encountered someone, at the end of that encounter, he said, go and sin no more.
Talk about it, Ola.
Like, so he never was just like, okay, go back the
Yes.
way I found you, have fun.
Yes.
Like he
Yes.
always, Jesus was like, I love you and I want justice for you, and I'm gonna call out the sin that's hurting you right now, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
not gonna leave you untouched. I'm gonna tell you, you need to go and sin no more. And so
Yes.
like we can't get so, hard and legalistic on people that we have no mercy and we have no like love for them in their sin, but at the same time we can't be to the point where we're like sin doesn't exist, sin is not a real
Mm-hmm.
thing, the only sin. It's like this is my example. It's like on one side you get to the point where like you don't notice systemic sin and you only
Mm-hmm.
notice individual sin. On
Mm-hmm.
the other side you don't recognize individual sin and all you notice is systemic sin. You're
And
just
God has to punish all of it.
God has to punish all of it because it's all
And
sin,
he died for all of it.
and he died for all of it.
Yes. Yes.
Like he died for that individual sin that you
Yes.
think is the worst thing ever known to man,
Mm-hmm.
and he died to right our systems. He
Yeah.
like the government is on his shoulders.
Yeah.
He
Teach, ma'am. Yes. Teach. Come on, Deaconess. Come on. Come on.
Oh yeah, like that's I mean, yeah, it's just so frustrating. It's so frustrating when people
Yeah.
want you to choose a side.
Yes.
Especially as
Yes.
a black
And
woman.
yes. And, but it's so hard because it's like, then you kind of feel like it's isolating too. Because then it's like, so you think like them? No, I actually don't. I
No,
don't actually. I'm actually pretty middle of the road.
yeah,
But but also the two sides are becoming so polarized and so extreme because it's not even about having like a definite standpoint. It's just like how can we beat the other side?
yeah,
Like
yes,
that's what it is. So the what's the like the how ridiculous it is becoming even more. So that it's even harder to kind of be middle of the road because it's like both of y'all acting crazy right now. I can't get with both of y'all. But I always say that. What you see, I knew it was tapped in. I'll always say that. I always say that I'm like literally Jesus, he cared about the outward healing and the justification of the systems, but he was like, but I know that this is a sin issue.
Yeah.
Like the reason why this woman who was caught in adultery was brought to my feet is because of not only just a sin of sexual sin, but also a sin of the pride of the people that brought her here.
Yes. Yes.
All of this is sin, and I'm actually here to die for all of it
Yes.
and redeem it. But it's like, again, the selective reading of scripture, because either somebody wants to focus on one part and not the other. But again, when you do that, you reject the entire fullness of Christ.
Mhm.
Because what we were talking about, I think it's at the beginning when you were talking about your story, when we don't recognize both the righteousness and the justice of Christ, like we can't really understand the scope of his love either
Right. Yeah.
because he loves us enough to wash us clean, to clean us of all iniquity, to make us in right standing. And he also loves us enough to look at the world we live in and say, this is not what I intended for my
Right.
creation, and
Yep.
fix it. Like both of those things are an expression of his love. And like, if we don't, like you said at the beginning, know the full scope of his love, what do we get? We get legalism, either
Yep.
on both sides, where it's like, don't talk about sin, don't talk about hell. Also, don't talk about justice, don't talk about
Right.
like correcting mal systems. Like, then we're caught in this, like, and the Lord is just like, so when you guys are ready
Any day.
to to let me do what I came to do,
Right.
which is restore creation unto myself. I'm ready.
Right. He's like,
I'm ready when
I'll
you
wait.
guys are.
And the like, I think the beauty is when you start to look at it that way,
Mm,
and you realize that like, okay, he came for me specifically,
yeah.
but he also came for the systems. It's so much more fulfilling to follow him
Yes. Yes.
because like when you're just following a Jesus that just came for you,
Mm,
you get selfish and you're just like,
mm,
well, it doesn't really matter what happens to them.
mm.
And selfishness like that isn't fulfilling. Like it
Yeah.
might feel like it, but it's not. And then when you only follow a Jesus that's like in this cosmic sense, like is going to right every wrong, he doesn't know you.
Mm,
And he doesn't care to know you. And it's just like, look, you're just doing this so I don't wipe you out. Like,
mm.
but like when you see him for the fullness of who he is, it's like I can trust him. I can trust him because
Yeah.
he knows me and he loves me and he cares about me, but he also cares about everything else.
Yes.
And he's
Yes.
big enough to care about all of it.
Yes. Girl, we just need to look at Jesus because
Yes.
like the fullness of him, like when Paul says, I pray that you would know the depth, the width, the height, like we should be the rest of our lives like knowing him more.
So many
And
layers.
it should grieve us that we're just reducing him enough to put him in whatever opinion or worldview we want him to be in. He's like, actually, I want to be bigger than that. I want to be like you, the love of your life, actually. Like, I want you, like, I want your friendship. So, oh my goodness.
Hard though, because that you can't control a God like that, right? Like,
Yes.
and when he's bigger than that, then he's gonna do things that you don't like or
Mm,
that you don't expect or that, and that's hard even as like a believer who's trying, like you said, to walk that narrow way. Like
hmm.
there are things that God, I'm like, could you
Can we
maybe
not?
like in my own life individually, but as well as
Mm,
the systems. I'm like, God, like
yeah.
you have to be like that. And then you have to remind yourself, I'm like, he's big enough to know what he's doing.
Yes. Yes. And he's not surprised by wickedness.
No.
He's not surprised by it. But he also has so much grace, more grace than I have.
Yes.
Because if I was God, y'all would have been getting smited in 2012. Okay?
Patient. His
Y'all would have been
patience.
getting smited. The judge wouldn't have to do nothing on site.
On site. On
I'm not
site.
gonna ask no questions. I seen it. But I mean, he has so much depth of knowledge and love and wisdom that it's like How can I help but follow a God like that? Because, oh Lord knows that I would be smited too. Shoot.
That's the thing. That's the thing, because he'll always bring you back to that where you're like, well,
Hmm.
I would have smited this person, and then he's like, so about you, and you're like, you
That's
know
my
what?
list. Yep. Come here.
You're like, you're right, never
I
mind.
love it. Well, thank you so much. If the audience wants to tap in on the research, they want to get involved in civic education, they want to tap in on the Substack, like please let us know where to find you, sis.
Yes. So, okay. On Instagram, it is ola.elise, and my middle name is spelled Aleece. You can also just like follow me via Maya.
I'm gonna tag her and everything, period.
We're locked in.
Everything gonna
Um,
be in the show notes, friends.
And then my Substack is called On Earth as in Heaven. And really my goal there is to just kind of like marry my, thoughts on justice and thoughts on the world and like scholarship, but also with my faith and with womanhood and with just like, I turned 31 this past January. And so just like navigating all of that with Jesus. So look me up, Ola Elise, on literally anything, and you will likely be able to find me.
I love it. Thank you so much, sis. We appreciate you being on the pod.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course.